to my YouTube channel. Thank you for joining me for another one of my videos today. So this was a really highly requested video from you guys, all about how to deal with limiting beliefs and negative thought patterns. So I feel like I've probably covered this in a few videos before, but not a specific video where it's named this. So I hope today that this really helps you and gives you some amazing tools and methods to be able to combat when these negative thoughts come up and how we can reduce them. So from being in this place myself a good 3 years ago, from having just very negative thought patterns, a very negative belief system, and limiting beliefs of myself, my confidence, my abilities, who I was as a person, to be loved, oh, the list goes on. And we all experience these throughout our life. We will all have times where we doubt ourselves, we doubt our abilities, and it took me a while, in all honesty, to really be able to harness that and to actually see the improvements. Although, like I said, you know, I read The Magic, the book by Rhonda Byrne, and it massively transformed my life in a very quick amount of time. For some people and myself, as I've gone through the journey, you know, I improved my kind of mental health, I improved my mindset, and like had a positive mindset finally after years. And when I kind of went into deeper healing and things would come up along my journey over the last few years, obviously those thoughts came up and I was like, hang on a minute, I dealt with this years ago. Like fears, I dealt with this years ago. Like, why is this coming up? And what I've come to realize is that we can never 100% remove negative thoughts, remove limiting beliefs, or, you know, shut our ego up infinitively, or definitively. I think it's definitively, basically forever. And that was something which was really hard for me to kind of learn, because I thought, well, hang on a minute, what's the point then? But what I came to realize is that it's not, the end goal is not to have a pure, clean mind where no negative thoughts ever come into your mind, because let's be realistic, they will. You know, if you've had a shit day, if something happens, you know, naturally we are going to have those negative thoughts. But what the improvement and healing is how you deal when they come up. So at the moment, like, look at yourself on the Abraham Hicks emotional scale. Are you a 0? Where are you on the scale of 0 to 10? And it's all about witnessing where you are and working your way up that scale. You can't jump from a 0 to a 10 and be like, I'm cured, I'm fixed, I'm just gonna think positive thoughts and everything's gonna be okay. While I think that is good, like definitely think positive thoughts, or like, you know, make a conscious effort to, you also need to realize that this is a process. Like, rewiring your brain is a process, okay? And you know, a really good explanation of that is it takes 21 days to change a habit. So a lot of practices, mirror work, the book The Magic, I know that was 28 days. A lot of things will be like 21 days, 28 days practices. And the reason why they do this is because stereotypically it takes 21 days to change a habit. So if it takes 21 days to change a habit, it takes 21 days, roughly 3 weeks, to change how you're feeling, or to change the kind of patterns that your mind has and negative beliefs about something, about everything. So really, I always say to people, like in my life coaching sessions or whoever it is, you know, give yourself 3 weeks. Do it every day for 3 weeks, like consciously change your mindset, like talk your ego down, talk your kind of limiting beliefs down, and in 3 weeks time gauge where you are again on the emotional scale. So see yourself, you can do it every week if you want to, check in on the emotional scale and see that you're going up slowly. So gradual improvements is what we want, and the end goal is not to have a completely clear mind, because, you know, unless you're like a monk that literally lives in like the hill, you know, in the mountains or whatever, like I reckon even they probably still have a negative thought every now and again. So we can never completely vanish them from our mind. It is our reaction time, it is our comeback time that improves, that heals, and the kind of type of thoughts that will come up. So after 3 years of doing this, of changing my mindset, changing my, you know, my life around and my positivity and coming out of depression, you know, I still have limiting beliefs sometimes. They will be triggers, we call them triggers. And those triggers can come from, you know, something someone said, something that's happened. And a really good example of this is my fear of flying. So as a kid, I used to like fly all over the world. I never ever had a problem with flying. And as I grew up and didn't fly for maybe, I think like eight-ish years, probably even more, I just had this, I created this crippling fear of flying from nowhere, literally from nowhere, because I never heard it before, and I was fine with flying. And it took, you know, a lot of courage and a lot of like facing my fear to get on that plane back in 2017, I think it was, no, 2016. And then I overcame my fear slowly but surely. After like 2-3 flights, 2-3 holidays, I overcame it again, and I was like, oh, thank God, like I've, you know, nothing bad's gonna happen, it's gonna be fine. And I just felt confident enough to be able to sit comfortably on a flight, and I thought, you know, I could do this by myself as well. But last year, after a series of just really turbulent flights, and one flight, oh my God, the flight to the Maldives, like, I don't even know how I handled that. Literally, like, I don't. And maybe this is a past life thing, maybe it's just a this life thing, but yeah, like flying to the Maldives, there was like a lot of turbulence, and there was a moment where the plane, I think they call it like air pockets. Like when I asked my friend, he was like, yeah, it's called an air pocket, because I was like, literally the plane fell out the sky, and we were just cruising along, and then literally the plane just went, just for like 5 seconds, it dropped. And oh my God, like in that moment, I didn't even have a chance to think, shit, I'm dying, or shit, the plane's falling out of the sky. I just thought, am I dead? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, you just think like, I don't even know what to think right now because I'm dropping. Like, and it was literally for a split second, and people were like screaming, and then everybody just carried on like nothing had happened. And I was just there like, what the fuck just happened? Am I gonna die? Like, what's happening? And ever since that flight, and then when we got on the seaplane, that was turbulent, and like just like, I swear the pilot was just a bit like adrenaline junkie happy. So I think just that kind of holiday, and also when I went to Paris with my friend Annie, we had a turbulent flight as well, and that was only an hour. I think those experiences myself reinstalled that fear into me of like something could happen, like you're gonna die, like it's bad. So then I had this fear of flying again, and I was like, oh my God, like I'd overcome this, like what the hell. So you can see that these things can come up again for us, you know, feeling that we're not worthy, feeling that, you know, we're not worthy of love, or we're not worthy of success, whatever. Like, these triggers can still come up, and most probably will come up. But the people who you see like further along this journey, who have positive mindsets, positive thoughts, like you look at all the greats out there, all of them still say, hey, I have limiting negative thoughts, but it's your comeback rate that counts. It's your comeback rate that decreases. It's your kind of bounce back as such, and how you deal with it. That is the proof the healing is happening. That is the proof that you have made those positive changes, because you know, a lot of it will come from fear, a lot of it will come from our ego. So really addressing our ego in this place is the most important thing. So don't beat yourself up for like constantly having these thoughts or thinking you've made progress and they come back. It's not that you're a failure, it's that when they do come back, your comeback rate comes a lot down, and you're able to deal with it better, and it doesn't become such a trigger. So for me now, like some of the thoughts I used to have, or some of the negative beliefs or confidence things, they're not a trigger now as such. It's more a case of it happens and I'm like, okay, that's silly. Like, let's look at this like positively, like, you know, I'm fine, all is well. Let's look at all the things to be grateful for in life, and then boom, I'm fine. So you can see that it's more of a case of those things will happen, the triggers will happen, but it won't be so to you. It won't be so intense. It will just kind of gradually go down to a place where it happens and you're like, this is okay, I know how to deal with it. So it's all about like having the tools in your toolbox as such to be able to deal with these things when they happen, or to deal with, you know, when people say stuff or something happens and it triggers that wound within you, that you can say, hey, I got tools in my toolbox, this is cool. So first of all, I would really look at write a list or journal down what is triggering you, what the common theme of your negative limiting thoughts are. Write it down and see if you can see any themes or any kind of deep wounding that is reoccurring, but in different statements, in different situations, and see if you can tie any of these things back to circumstances, situations, or anything that happened in your childhood, or someone who taught you that you weren't worthy of love, if you know what I mean. So say for instance, you write down all your examples or anything you can think of, and you think, okay, that's my I'm not worthy of success, or I'm not worthy of validation. You could then say, right, who in my life has taught me that I needed validation, or who didn't give me validation throughout my life. So tie it back to a past situation where you can say, right, this is where I first felt that. This is where I first felt inadequate or unworthy, or that I wasn't perfect, or do you know what I mean, like whatever it is, like I didn't feel good enough, I wasn't enough, something like that. So tie it back to past experiences, write these down as well so you don't forget them. And what I would really do with them is to explore. So inner child work is so good for this. It's my number one recommendation. There's meditations out there that you can do. I've even got one over on my website, or you can find meditations online, but the kind of synopsis of it, so if you just want to freestyle and do it yourself, is that you will go into meditation, calm yourself, like really center yourself and become present, and then see your inner child in front of you. So they will appear at, you know, an age they feel comfortable to, so don't force this. They will just appear at the age they're meant to. Mine's about 6-7 years old, and just let that come naturally, and then go to the scenarios where these events happened or these triggers happened. So replay that event in your mind and see your inner child there. So once the kind of scenario or scene stopped, then you can kind of say to your inner child, what do you need to know right now? And ask them questions, say, what do you need to know right now? And let them, you know, listen, hear them, let them kind of tell you what they want. And then what my best advice is to respond in a sense of how you would respond to your own child. What would you say to your own child if they came to you and said these things? So you may need to do this a few times. Like sometimes it works first time, sometimes it takes a couple of times, and sometimes that you may need to do it multiple times because you've got multiple scenarios you can remember or multiple events. So, you know, sometimes this can be a process. That's absolutely okay. And obviously once you come out of the kind of meditation, journal down anything that comes up for you or that you notice, or even what your inner child said, so that you can refer back to it at a later date and yeah, you can remember what was said. So inner child work is really interesting, and it really helps to kind of go into the deeper side of why we have these limiting beliefs, fears, and kind of, you know, fears and beliefs installed in us where it triggers us in adult life. Another way to deal with it is when you're feeling inadequate or you're not feeling worthy enough, like, does it link back to your wound? Obviously look at that. Is it your validation wound? Is it your not worthy of love wound? See what it is going back to, but don't react in that moment. Like, just process it, take it in. Don't say anything if someone said something to you and you're triggered. Like, take it in and breathe and work on that within yourself later on and say, okay, what is this triggering within me? Like, is it my trigger of speaking up? Should I say something? Should I be sticking up for myself? Because sometimes as well, it can be things like that where the universe is kind of pushing us and saying, right, okay, how are you going to deal with this? What are you going to do with this? So sometimes it is a case of, you know, speaking our truth, speaking up. So definitely witness that if it is that. But fear-wise, the way you can talk it down is to talk to your ego. So a really good practice that I learned, which I taught at my summit in London, was to address your ego. So you could do this now, like journal it down in a notebook. So the first question is, think of a name for your ego. So the first thing that comes into your mind, like the first name, even if it's random as hell. Believe me, like, I've heard all sorts of names, so there is no judgment. Write down the first name that comes into your head right now. So the second question to ask yourself is, what is the characteristics of this ego, of the name? So are they sexist? Are they belittling? Are they rude? Are they angry? What traits do they give off, essentially? So what are their characteristics? So the next question is, who in your life is this person? Now, 99.9% of the time, this person will exist in your life, past or present. Family member, friend, old boss. Like, it can be a couple of people as well. It could be like a couple of people mixed together. It could be one person, but it will always be someone in your life. So note down who it is. And once you realize this, it's powerful, because what I'm going to say to you next is, has your ego ever been right? Has this person ever been right about you? No. The answer is always no. So why do we give our egos so much validation and credibility? Like, what qualification do our egos have? What, like, statistics do our ego have of being right? None. But we give our egos this kind of credibility and this kind of accolation as such of, hey, I must trust you even though you've been like 100% wrong all of the time. So realize that, and when you realize this and you can address your ego as this person or as the name, so mine's called Charlie for instance, like random name, I don't know anybody called Charlie in my life, so I just literally address Charlie and I'm just like, hey Charlie, let's have a little talk today, okay? So you're coming up with all this stuff, you're trying to make me doubt myself, you're trying to make me doubt my intuition, and that's okay because I know you're scared. So you could say, I know you're scared, I know this feels scary, but like, trust me, I've got this. And also your ego is very linked to your inner child as well. So your ego will mask itself with this kind of like, I'm right and I'm this divine voice, whereas your inner child will obviously be a lot more innocent and obviously be you essentially, whereas your ego is, I wouldn't say, probably doesn't have statistically many characteristics of yourself. So I always see my inner child and my ego as the same, of it just needs love. Like a lot of people will shame their egos, will like bash their egos down, and they're like, fuck off. And that just doesn't work because our ego needs love. Our ego doesn't need any more like rejection or fighting or anything like that, because that's what just fuels the fire essentially. So our egos need love. So love your ego, as shit as it may be, and a dick, like, you know, it may say some pretty shitty stuff. Love your ego and reassure your ego. So when a trigger or a limiting belief comes up, just say, name it. So obviously mine's Charlie, so Charlie, like, I hear you, it's okay, like, you don't need to worry, I have got this, like, the universe has got our back, I've got this, I know what I'm doing, and I'm gonna trust my intuition. So thank you for stopping by today, I send you lots of love, but trust me babes, I've got this. And something as simple as that may seem really ridiculous, but it really honestly has helped me, and I know has helped a lot of other people. I've kind of like said, hey, try this too. So give it a go for sure. Definitely try the inner child work. Definitely try like naming your ego, talking your ego down. And for those of you who are like, what is the difference between ego and intuition? I have done a video on this. But your ego will be very, I mean, mine's got quite clever sometimes. Like it will literally pretend to be my intuition, and I'm like, ask again, and then I'm like, ha, got you. So your ego will always be like very dramatic, well mine is anyway, quite sassy, quite like high, low tempo, very like all over the place in tempo, and very long-winded answers, very like, you know, just very long-windedness, and probably quite negative as well. But sometimes they can mask themselves as positive. But again, you can just tell by the tone and how long-winded it is, and just by it being just quite sassy more than anything. So your intuition will always be short, well not snappy, but short, profound, and to the point. Not in a harsh way, but to the point in a very calm, very monotone way. Like it's not like blah blah blah, it's very just all one tone, very short, profound, to the point, and reassuring. Like when you hear that answer, you'll just be like, yes. Whereas your ego, you'll probably be like, really? Is that really what the answer is? So that's the best way to like describe it. And I hear two answers. So if I like go into a meditation or just check in with my intuition, and I say like, okay, what do I need to do here, or what's the answer, or is this true, like whatever the question may be, I will hear two answers. So stereotypically my ego comes first, my intuition comes afterwards. So that's how I kind of know, because the ego is like, oh yeah, get our little answer in, whereas my intuition's like, nope, I will wait and deliver in silence. But sometimes my intuition comes first if I'm like really in tune with it. So really there's no right or wrong answers here. There's no like set rule. It will just be what your ego wants to do to try and trick you the most. So there are ways to obviously see the differences and obviously be able to tune into what is really intuition. And sometimes it does take asking twice to see what answer was calm, like, you know, profound, to the point, and consistent, and what one is like all over the place and just a bit jittery. But like I said, the key, well, the goal here is not to completely never have these thoughts again. Absolutely not. The key here is to be able to handle the triggers when they come up, so that you can see over a period of time that your triggers or your comeback time as such, your bounce back, becomes shorter and shorter and shorter, and you don't have to listen to it anymore. So try the ego exercise, try the inner child meditations. I hope those really help you. But notice, you know, like I said, try this for 21 days and see how you can move yourself up that emotional scale and check in with yourself. Journaling's really good for this, obviously, and like I said, if you keep having the same thoughts come up, journal them down, see what wound that is triggering. Do you need to go into inner child work here, or do you just need to like maybe work on some self-love? Self-love's always a good one for limiting beliefs. You know, like if you are kind of doubting your validation or your worthiness, write a self-love list of all the things that you love about yourself. So another really like good example of that, for instance, was when I didn't feel worthy of being married. Like that came up recently. I was like, I healed that 3 years ago. Why has that come up? And I just wrote a list of all the reasons why I am worthy of being married and what I could, you know, bring to my husband. So for me, like just doing those little exercises can really help, not only for self-love, but for, you know, healing that wound and being able to like next time if it comes up, be like, right, this is what I need to do this time. But as some reassurance, no matter how far you get in this journey, we will always have limiting beliefs every now and again, or our egos will pipe up. Like that is life. That is the cycle of life. Our shadow, like our shadow should not be shamed. Like it, you know, it needs the love as well. And you know, it's all about balance at the end of the day, the yin, yang, the light, the dark. So it's definitely not something to shun away and like, you know, ignore, because the more you ignore it, it's gonna get worse. So definitely like learn to embrace it, let it to flow through you. And if you're having negative thoughts as well and you're just like, I really want positive thoughts, one thing that I really do, and sometimes it can be collective energy. I normally notice I have to do this when there's really heavy collective energy rather than it's my personal thing that's being triggered. Like when I just have really weird negative thoughts and it's just collective energy, or it's a Mercury retrograde or whatever's going on like planetary wise, I just choose to say like, I allow this thought to flow through me and I choose better thoughts. So you can just say things like that, to just say, okay, I see you, no, I choose better thoughts, thank you. So better thought feeling, as Abraham Hicks says as well. So I hope this video has really helped you guys. Let me know in the comments down below if you're going to try any of these methods, or if they have helped you before. Thank you so much for all your views and likes. I really appreciate them. Don't forget to subscribe if you're new here, because I would love to see you again soon. Don't forget to leave me a comment in the comments box down below, because I reply to them all. And also you can join my free Law of Attraction support group over on Facebook, where you can join myself and other like-minded souls, where we share all things positivity and Law of Attraction. So I hope you have a fantastic week, and I will see you next week in my next video. Lots of love, guys.